I'm here.
All right. Am I live now?
You're live now.
Okay.
I
Thank
think.
you. Actually, been sitting here talking to to the. Am I
Yeah.
live now?
I got it.
Okay.
Let me get
Thank
my
you.
volume down. I apologize.
Actually been sitting here talking for a few minutes to the screen, just carrying on a wonderful little conversation, and forgot to click the corner live go live button. Did unmute the mic, did get the cam running, but you know, technical difficulties. What can I say? I do appreciate your patience. We
Hi,
should
Carrie Berry's mom. Hi, Carrie Berry's mom.
just want to say Ellen is here on the side to help me when I call Alex Murdaugh instead of Murdoch, or call him Murtaugh, or call him Alex instead of Alec. And people, I was sitting there thinking about it. People ask or wonder why he pronounces his name Alec or Murtaugh.
Murdaugh.
Murdoch. Sorry. It's going to be a difficult night. Well, I think it's partly because of the Scottish influence in the lowlands, in the region,
Country.
in the in the low country there in South Carolina. That is a Scottish or Gaelic pronunciation. And I spent a month or two in Scotland. Absolutely love it. Beautiful country. Look forward to going back. And when I'm there, I start to develop a little bit of a Scottish brogue, but have since lost it. It's been many years since I've been there. But we're talking about Murdaugh.
Murdoch,
Thank
not
you.
Murtaugh.
I'm just always going to say Murtaugh because that's what I see in my head. And I haven't watched the trial continuously like some people. But it's a fascinating trial to me. And I'll go ahead and say up front, I'm not an attorney. I don't offer, legal expertise or commentary. I can't say I'm terribly impressed with, some of the attorneys, but I'm going to try to stay away from legal commentary per se and just comment on it as a modest follower, rather avid follower. Murdoch. Thank you, Goosebump. You keep throwing that up there, and I'll be able to look at it and get the correct pronunciation. But big thing to me is that, I'm in finance. I always want to follow the money. I always want to know, because I think money is a huge motivator to people. But to me, it's something surprisingly that the prosecution has given very little time, effort, and energy to. While he was practicing, Murdaugh, working on it. Murdaugh stole 10 to 12 million the past decade. They may not even have found all of it, but between that and the unpaid loans, that's sizable money. And, in court in the testimony, they gave his reported income for the past 5 or 6 years. In 2014, he made $1 million, or a little over $1 million. 2015, he made $2 million. 2016, 900,000. 2017, 218,000. Nice little drop. 2018, he rebounded to 750 roughly. And 2019 was 655. Now that's good money. But if you look at and then in terms of the stolen money over that period of time, $4, $5, $6 million. I do have some amounts, but they're kind of incomplete and the information's sketchy, so I don't have a lot of confidence in them. But for example, in 2015, he stole at least 583,000. In 2019, 2.9 million. So some pretty good blocks of money. But where'd it go? If you look at their lifestyle, they didn't live necessarily like millionaires. Paul drove an old 5-6-year-old pickup. Alex did have a 2-year-old Suburban. But a you look at their estate, the grounds weren't really well kept or immaculate. The house was relatively modest. The animal sheds and areas were pretty run down, actually, in my opinion. Were not well maintained. They did travel a fair amount, but $50,000 or $100,000 a year on travel is a ton of travel, but it doesn't cover $3 million a year in income. So where'd the money go? Now, Alex claims to have spent $50,000 a week on Oxy. I have a hard time buying that. The number of pills he would be taking each day, I just don't buy that kind of volume. But still, at $50,000 a week, isn't that what he said?
Yes.
Times 50 weeks in a year is 2.5 million in Oxy. He could buy an Oxy factory for that.
Sure.
So, I'm still like, and he got the drugs from his cousin. Well, his cousin was relatively poor. If you're dealing that kind of volume of Oxy, you're going to be making a spread. So I don't know where it went, but it just doesn't seem to fit to me. And that's a big question, is why is nobody following the money? I don't know. I actually had a follower say I should remove that from my vocabulary. So I told him I would, but there it comes out again. I really didn't mean saying that. I don't know, but I really don't know. I was sitting there watching some of the forensics evidence, which is interesting to me. And the guy they had on today, I don't remember his name, but he's the Southern forensics expert that was talking about the angle of inflection and the bullet holes in the quail pin and the angle of the bullets.
Tilly wants some love.
Just Tilly wants love. There's Tilly. She likes to be on camera. She's a star. She's such a star.
You've got a lot of questions.
Ellen says I'm getting a lot of questions, but she's not telling me what they are.
Well, you got to go through them. I don't know how to do all this yet. I got to talk to Secret and figure out how this works.
And I won't apologize because we're new and working out all the details. It's one reason why we do this, and we do it just because we enjoy it. Greatly appreciate your patience with us. We are still learning the tools and techniques. But going back through trying to see the question, the Suburban, a company car. It may have been. Ellen is my trial expert.
It was a company car.
It was a company car
for him in 2020 because it was 2021, the end of 2020. Because that would have been the newest model.
Okay, so he didn't even need to buy the car. The company bought the car. So throw that expense out. It makes my case even more intriguing to me in terms of what they do with all this money. Trying to see, is there a way to mark questions so that they are colored or something?
That's a Secret McSquirrel. Do you have an answer to that one? Because I have no idea.
Hey, Secret. Good to see you. I hope you're feeling better. Yeah, Secret was one of the first people Ellen and I kind of met or got introduced online, and just love her to death. She's a doll. Now, the expert testimony today was kind of weird to me because he kept focusing on the quail pin and the angle of the bullet through the quail pin, talking about, first of all, how the bullet wipe,
he didn't know that it was called a wipe, but
got on the entry hole, a little smudge there on the entry hole. And he was talking about how the sled investigator may have caused the smudge putting in the dowel. Well, the trick is the picture of the wipe was taken before the dowel was inserted. And bullet wipes are not uncommon if you have an old barrel that's not terribly clean. You have a lot of carbon buildup or deposit. The bullet picks some up as it spins through the barrel and will leave some of that residue on the entry hole. That's not a terribly uncommon phenomenon. Second thing was that he kept arguing that the removal of the dowel, altered the bullet hole. Well, they took the measurement of the angle before the dowel was removed. That's a mood issue. He then got mad because or snarky, I should say, because the gauge was, he said, was backwards. It had a flat end and a curved rounded end. And the rounded end was next to the vertical side. Okay. You had the dowel at an angle. You had he kept calling it cardboard, but it looks like that old corrugated plastic to me. The corrugated plastic's pretty hard, firm surface, lasts forever. But anyway, he kept arguing that that gauge was backward, resting on the dowel, and thus inaccurately reflected the slope. Okay, my background is kind of in math, and for what I remember from geometry is that slope is calculated by rise over run. If you want to use calculus, it's the first derivative of the function. Okay, we're not going into calculus, but the slope of that dowel doesn't matter, is independent of the angle of that vertical line. So it doesn't matter where that gauge was sitting or if it was flush to this vertical wall. Does that make sense? So it doesn't matter if the flat end was against the vertical side of the cardboard or not. The slope remains the same because the slope is the difference between 2 points on that line. And that's what the gauge measures. It's wholly independent of any angularity in this vertical surface. So that was bothersome to me. There are just several things in the trial where some of these witnesses, expert witnesses supposedly, are just spewing bullshit. And I don't think the defense is necessarily always doing a good job of catching it. So that's an issue to me. But, you know, what do y'all think? Is Murdaugh involved? Is he guilty of the shootings? I haven't seen any physical evidence actually connecting him to the murders. I know a lot of people don't like him, and he is scum of the earth the way he treated some of his clients. Don't argue that at all. But did he actually participate, or did he actually murder his wife and son? I'm still a little bit on the Missouri side. I haven't seen evidence directly connecting him to that. And everything I've seen seems to indicate the family was a loving family. Now, I'm a father. I love my baby. I love the hell out of my baby. I could never even imagine killing my baby. Doesn't matter how mad I got at her. And I've not seen any motives. What did he benefit from killing them? I just don't know. He'd gone to great lengths to try to protect the estate from the lawsuit. Why not kill him before he got everything situated?
We had a pause.
Yeah.
Tell Secret that I'm sorry. I left clicked on her like she said and ended up blocking her for 5 minutes. I put her in timeout. I didn't mean to. Secret
Ellen is humbly apologizing over here for putting you in timeout. She apparently clicked on the wrong button. So
I'll message her.
Yes, there she is. I can see the lines. Secret Miss Squirrel is blocked for 5 minutes. That ought to put us in the Hall of Fame. We're the only live broadcast to block Secret McSquirrel. So we now have our claim to fame. Good job, Ellen.
Wait, other way.
Is she Secret free yet?
So
Is Secret free yet, or is she still in timeout?
I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I've been trying to fix it.
Like I say, we're working on these. And Kimberly's mom started a huge argument skeet shooting Sunday, talking about whether tool marks is junk science. By tool marks, do you mean like the firing pin mark on the primer? Or are you talking about the rifling on the bullet? Sometimes if there's a defect in the firing pin that strikes the primer and causes the ignition of the gunpowder, you can specifically identify that firing pin. Like I say, if there's a defect, a chip off of it or something. But normally the science in terms of trying to identify the firing pins is pretty weak. You can, and I believe they did this in the Murdaugh trial, look at his shotgun, and the firing pin was aligned differently than the firing pin on the spent shells. So they claimed that gun was not the gun that shot Paul. What are you laughing at?
Never seen this message before. I'm sorry, Secret. I am so sorry. I'm trying.
Is she out of jail yet?
No, not yet.
Secret is still in jail. When Secret gets out of jail, if y'all will extend her a warm welcome back, let her know she was missed and that Ellen is a mean and evil person for putting her in jail.
I didn't mean to. I was trying to make her a moderator.
So that's the way it works on this channel. You're either a moderator or you're blocked, one way or the other. There's no in between. We have fun.
She said she was laughing her honey off though. So.
Yeah. So the firing pin, it's an inexact science. It's not really valid in most courts, from what I understand. But in terms of the alignment of that firing pin, where it strikes on the primer, is valid. You can disqualify a weapon based on the alignment of the firing pin.
Free the squirrel, please.
Welcome back, Secret. Ellen is extremely
no, I don't think she's
humble.
back yet.
Yeah, she's back right there.
Oh, is she? Yay!
Yeah.
I can't. I'm in the wrong direction.
That's all right. So, like I say, we don't know exactly what all the hell we're doing with some of this technology, but we'll figure it out, and we greatly appreciate y'all's joining us and
Secret, we got
letting us experiment. All right, there's another question in terms of the two forensics testimonies, in terms of the directionality of the shotgun blast. The prosecution's expert testifies that the shotgun blast went up through the arm, the shoulder, into the jawline, and erupted with the explosion out of the back of the head using birdshot. The defense witness argues that it was a contact wound and that the resulting blowback, etc., accounted for the splatter up on the ceiling and the walls. So, I thought about trying to go to the range and take a watermelon or some heavy, relatively dense object, if I could get several of them, and, conduct kind of a little semi-experiment on it. But YouTube is wonderful. I will give YouTube some credit here. They've got all sorts of stuff. And we actually found a video of a group using shotguns on watermelons, which is kind of what I wanted to create. So instead of reinventing the wheel, we are going to just show you some of these videos. Can you move Tallulah?
Yeah.
Not that she isn't a star, but
she knows she's the best.
She's cutting into my time.
You need your Mouse. Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Yep. Needed my mouse. So what I want to do.
Now where am I? Sorry, I'm having issues. There we go.
All right. Here it is. And let me put that up a little bigger so hopefully you can see it. Now, this guy conducts he shoots 3 different loads. First load is a slug, which is a solid projectile used for larger animals like deer, or if you're in the Rockies, you may carry it for bear. It's just a chunk of lead, and it hits like somebody is welding a huge sledgehammer and caves it into your chest. So first he does the slug, then he does double-aught buckshot, which is very large BBs. In a shotgun shell, 3-inch shotgun shell, you get about 9 or 10 of those in the shell. And then third, he uses bird shot, which probably is an 8 or 10 shot, and you might get 200, 400 pellets in the 3-inch shell. They're very, very small. Because if you think about it, if you're shooting dove, you don't want pellets that rip through and blow the bird up. You want something small that will penetrate the bird, but only for half an inch or an inch. And, sufficient to kill it and bring it down, but you don't want to destroy the meat. So let's look at these videos and talk about them as they go on.
This is graphic if you really love watermelons.
Yeah, I guess we should issue the warning.
It's cellophane warning.
Now notice the mist there that is created. And they show some slow-mo here.
All right.
Yeah, that's the slug coming out. And these 12,000 FPS, 66,000 FPS is actually the frames per second. It's just indicating how slow-mo the filming is. So 66,000 is far slower than the 12,000. So that's why the bullet comes out behind the slug.
They talk about the gas
now
and the pressure.
Yeah.
This is what they're talking about.
Now look right here. You see this explosion enveloping the slug all the way to the rifle. That's the gas expanding. It is forced down the barrel, and the barrel's going to be, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch in diameter, but it channels it all the way down that barrel, not allowing it really to expand any other direction but straight forward, horizontally. And then when it comes out of the barrel, it creates the explosion, a rapidly expanding explosion. That's really all an explosion is rapidly expanding gas. And that rapidly expanding gas can do some damage to materials or substances that are nearby.
Okay, so Moffat, with this slug shot to the head, contact wound, right? Would this blow the entire head up?
This would to my opinion, this would blow the entire head up. This would just literally decapitate the individual.
But this was not what was used.
This was not what was used. This is the most extreme example. But take a look at the watermelon. Now here you see some of the debris, the little plastic wad that the slug is encased in. Now here you see misting. You see water vapor actually. Now obviously you see the watermelon being blown apart, but it's not the impact. How do I say this? It's not necessarily the slug itself. It's the expanding air. The slug creates a vacuum and a hole as it penetrates through. And you see it coming out of the watermelon here. But it creates a hole, the diameter of the slug, that there's a vacuum and air rushes in to fill that. And it is that air rushing in that expands, that creates the quote unquote explosion here. Same way it would work in a human skull.
Well, not exactly.
Not exactly the same, but the same idea. You've got the air rushing in that creates a secondary explosion.
That's a pretty good shot. Pretty good aim.
And the next one is buckshot.
And you can see as the air fills in the hole, you can see as the air fills in the hole that it forces the explosion of the watermelon. The bullet actually passes through it.
Don't get too graphic.
The bullet actually passes through it before it explodes. Now, for the double alt
buckshot. And it was 9 pellets, just like what was used on Paul's chest. And they're not nearly as close.
Here you see the buckshot, the gases preceding the buckshot and then expanding afterwards. And there you see the wadding, some of the gunpowder, etc., the residue being thrown out, ejected.
So again, 6,400 frames a second. This is double alt buckshot. Well, I haven't seen it yet. But more damage on this.
So
here you can't really tell unless you're looking for it, but the double alt passes straight through the watermelon. And again, it's the holes, the vacuum in the holes with the air rushing in that actually causes the explosion of the watermelon.
The package had what, 9 pellets? And you can see each individual splatter. That's a good freeze frame right there.
The wadding that they're talking about is just a plastic case which holds the double alt buckshot in the shotgun shell,
just like
with the powder underneath it and the primer next to the powder. So when the powder starts to ignite, it compresses on that wadding, that plastic casing, and forces it out. The casing kind of insulates the shells, the pellets from scraping down the side of the barrel, and then it's all ejected. And what you see in that back end is just that plastic casing coming through.
Moment. Happy puppy moment.
There's happy puppy moment. Hey, Tallulah.
This is not fun.
And then the buckshot, the bird shot. Here again, you see the gas coming out, the wadding separating from the bird shot. That's the wadding. Whoops.
It's cool. I think we're getting a little bit of a shock diamond there hanging around. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So each of these have had their own unique little explosion flair behind it.
This is what was used apparently on Paul's head.
Yeah.
And you can tell the bird shot doesn't penetrate the watermelon. The energy of the bird shot is absorbed by the watermelon. Now you still have the holes created up, in the closest end. You still have the air rushing in that causes the explosion of the watermelon. But the small pellets, if you remember Einstein's equation, E = mc squared, energy is a function of the mass of the item times the speed of light squared. So even a small increase in mass, because it's multiplied by, I mean, the speed of light's 186,000 miles a second squared, which I don't know what that number is offhand, but I guarantee you it's a pretty big number. So any small increase in mass will create a lot more energy. And the difference between the very small pellets in the birdshot versus the double-aught buckshot or the slug gives you a big difference in energy and penetrating power. Birdshot does not have a lot of penetrating power. So for me to argue that it goes through the arm, through the shoulder, up into the jaw, and then explodes
So it was his left.
the skull.
Go left.
Yeah, explodes his skull is not really accurate.
If he comes this
Ellen,
way and they go up here and into his head, it would not have blown his head off.
Mm-mm.
Or his brain out, whatever.
So that, to me, they haven't spent any time discussing the energy of birdshot versus buckshot. Now, the witness testifying that it was a contact wound in the skull, that the shotgun was directly in contact with the skull. If that happened, then you would get some penetration into the skull. If you've seen just a regular human skull, you've got the bone, and then you've got a pretty significant bone structure here underneath. So two things. One, X-rays would show the pattern of the shot, which apparently the ME didn't take X-rays. So if they are, spreading wider as they penetrate further, or you could tell whether or not they had a downward path in some of the soft tissue. That just wasn't done. The ME today, who is testifying for the prosecution, testified she didn't care. She didn't examine it. Didn't seem to be important at the time. That's critically important. So again, that's just another huge lapse in the investigation that has occurred. But the main evidence to me is the blowback. If you have a shotgun pressed against some surface, that gas enters into that softer surface and then wants to expand, just like it does when it leaves the barrel. Well, the brain and that matter is soft enough to allow it to expand because of the energy behind the blast. But that energy is going to expand taking the path of least resistance. And there is now a defect or a weakness, a structural flaw in the skull where the entry wound is. So that entry wound is now the path of least resistance for that gas expansion. Hence, you get all that brain matter and the blowing apart of the skull there as that gas expands through that weakness, through that defect. And that's why you see blood spatter and brain material up on the ceiling above that angle. To me, that is terribly convincing evidence that the prosecution just ignored. Now, I got a question from Goosebump. How much difference would it make if the gun muzzle was only 2 to 3 inches away from Paul's head, though? With birdshot, that would allow some expansion of the gas outside of the skull. There still would be a lot of gas and energy forced into the skull. I don't know precisely what the exact effect. It would probably be the same effect to a lesser degree. You would still have some back splatter from that exploding gas or energy. So whoever was, I mean, you can be 3 or 4 feet away from somebody and shoot them and you're getting blood spatter on you. So if you've got a shotgun that's 2 or 3 inches from somebody's head, you could be as close as, a foot or two, a couple of feet. You're going to get drenched. You're going to get covered in blood and brain matter and bone fragments. Now, somebody mentioned, I think Ellen maybe was telling me earlier, that the hose had been moved away from its normal coiling position. So it would be
It was
very,
just on. You
the
gotta-
hose was on.
Yeah, but you gotta take this at some point. But you
Okay.
gotta take this down.
Ellen's telling me I got to take all this down. I'm telling you, she keeps me honest. Is that better?
Yes, much.
I kind of like the blowing up the exploding watermelon, but anyway.
Well, you're a freak.
So if it, yeah, so if it's 2 or 3 feet away, if it's 2 or 3 inches away, you'll still have some backsplatter, some expansion of the hole, some destruction of the brain. The exact extent, I'm not sure.
She changed the question.
Now, Goosebump, you say this guy is a lot farther away. Which?
Last one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant he was 2 or 3 feet back and shot up through the shoulder. I just am not confident that bird shot that can't penetrate a dove, if shot from 2 or 3 feet away, would have enough energy, because the mass of the pellet is so little that it would penetrate the muscle, which is a relatively dense muscle, the bone structure, the shoulders, again, relatively dense muscle tissue, go through the jaw, through the bone on the underside of the brain, through the brain, and then still have enough energy to kick out the skull. That's a big push to me. To me, I would have, if I had been the defense or prosecution, I would have spent a whole lot more time on the physics of that, on the energy delivered and the energy required to pass through. Like, we have gelatin that simulates human flesh and muscle, and you can shoot this birdshot. I'm not sure what size it was. It could have been 6, could have been 8, could have been 10. If it's 6, there's probably, I don't know, 170 pellets in there. But you can shoot this into a block of gelatin and see how it penetrates, see how it spreads, see the response. They didn't do that. There was no evidence or record of that. Compare that to double-aught buck, compare that to a slug. You get vastly different results with each one of those loads. So that's to me a big issue. I can't say Murdaugh is innocent, but to me, the evidence presented is, the guy's a fraud. He's a scum. He's a scam artist, scum of the earth. But in terms of convicting somebody of murder, I don't see any direct evidence that connects him to it. So I'm in Missouri.
I'm not. But I've watched the trial. He is not.
Yeah. And also, for somebody to put a gun to their son and wife's head and blow their face off, that's just imaginable to me. To me, that kind of placement is either highly personal, like, if you killed my daughter, I'd have no problems putting a shotgun to your face and pulling the trigger. If you killed my son, same thing. So to me, those kind of face shots are either immensely personal and angry, or it's from a professional. Either way. I got a question. Is he good on the financial crimes?
What's good mean?
They're going to nail him for life on what he's done financially. I mean, he'll have a sentence of 50 years, 70 years. I don't know exactly.
Can I be devil's advocate?
Yeah.
What if someone was bribing him? Sorry, my voice is awful. Had COVID, whole thing. But what if someone was bribing him? He didn't pay, didn't do, or couldn't do or pay. So they killed his family. And part of the reason that he had the bribes was because he was being blackmailed.
I mean, that's always possible. And Could even be likely. I mean, he's got to do something with all the money he's had.
It's too money for drugs. It's too much money just for drugs.
It
in my
seems,
opinion.
yeah, it seems to be to me too. But I don't know what's happened to it. And I really, honest to God, don't understand why nobody's paying any attention to that. That's a huge issue to me. $10 million. He was making anywhere from, on average, $800,000 to $5 million a year during the past decade. In addition, he stole $10 to $12 million. How the hell do you spend $20 million in 10 years? $22 million in 10 years, living like just upper middle class. You know, they didn't have a really fancy, elaborate home. The grounds weren't all that well maintained. Even the house on the beach, kind of a modest 2 or 3 bedroom house. But
they were having it redone when Maggie and Paul were killed.
Yeah, but they're not spending $20 million on either of those places.
No.
So
yeah, where is the money?
Where is the money? Nobody is following the money. And I don't think.
What could you do, Secret? I just saw that.
What challenge does Secret accept?
I don't know. Buster has been, in my opinion, extremely stoic during the entire trial. So has Randy, which has been kind of strange. Now, John Marvin has been a hot mess, but I don't know. It's just been kind of weird.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it, and talking about the details of his brothers and mother's murder.
She's saying spending that money in the time frame.
But I bet, Secret, you'd have something to show for it. I bet you could point to some things that looked like $20 million. Goosebump states, based on other info, I think he was bribing tons of people using money for drugs and maybe putting some in the Bahamas. That could be. I just want somebody to try to follow it. And I've not seen that effort. I've not seen any real discussion on that. Buster would know. I do think Buster would know. But the interesting thing is, supposedly Murdaugh, did I get that right, Goosebump? Murdaugh tried to kill himself so that Buster would have a $10 million insurance benefit. That doesn't sound like he's got a whole lot of money stashed away that Buster could or would access.
Okay, Alice in Texas. Didn't they say no other phone activity any other than them at that time at Moselle? Who else could have been? That's a good question. I think that there were steps taken by Maggie at 8:55, or someone had her phone. However, if Alec would have thrown it out of his window, in my opinion, if Alec would have thrown it out of his window on the way to Alameda, then it would have had some kind of rotational change from portrait, landscape, portrait. There would have been something, because she had the raise to on, whatever. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, there would have been some note in the phone log, and there was nothing. Also, from what I understand, between his phone log and her phone log, they don't move together at any time that night. So somebody else had her phone. Don't know who, but somebody else had her phone.
Oh, thanks, Secret. You're the best. Like, subscribe, ring the bell.
It's to me a fascinating case. And I really, watching the video of the officer wearing the body cam, the cops trampling all over the site, not knowing what the hell to do. Even
the guy from
you talking about where he had the cardboard box and the wooden dowels, the experiments from today's guy? No, didn't buy those.
One bit.
Because he couldn't even figure out how to calculate slope. I mean, if you can't come out, and I don't know where he got his degree from, but if you can't come out of high school with the ability to calculate slope, rise over run, the difference in rise over run, you damn sure don't need to be testifying as an expert on angularity in a courtroom.
All right. Money midwifery should have tried the financial cases first. I agree.
Absolutely. Should have tried the financial cases first. They've got solid evidence. They've got the guy nailed. They could put him away for life. That would give them more time to investigate the murder evidence, pursue other angles, try to firm up their evidence. But, I saw somebody say today, they've even decked or raised the dog kennels and the sheds out back. I know it's been 2 years, but the evidence is so all over the place. I just don't think you destroy evidence in a site until you have a firm picture.
Okay, Goosebumps said no, the Frisbee guy. He was like a few minutes and I paid no attention, and so Clay probably didn't either. How you throw it and it's not going to change direction today. There were today or the other day, I'm not sure, but
the
you throw it if it
guy
doesn't actually change like orientation when it lands.
Yeah, but it should probably spin or bounce, but it should at least show in its GPS the movement. If Alex, picks it up, puts it on his pocket, it should move consistently with his phone. And my understanding is it did not. So maybe there's a scenario where Alex could have had the phone and it not record any movement or anything on the log. But, I don't know enough to really comment on that.
That's what I'm supposed to do is start. Oh, look, I did it. I put one up there.
Okay.
I am figuring this out, guys.
Progress. As a scientist, I'm terribly embarrassed for him. Are you talking, Emma Jacks? I assume you're talking about today's.
Amy Jacks.
Amy Jacks. Sorry. I assume you're talking about today's expert witness. The guy has no shame.
I'm starring things now.
The guy has no hesitation at saying anything. When he was talking about, he had zero confidence in the angles that SLED deduced from the bullet holes. Zero confidence. You're basically saying that there's no way in hell that they're right. You may have some reasonable doubts, express those reasonable doubts, but the moment he said he had zero confidence, unless he could prove fraud or, something major, that's what a propagandist would say, not a scientist. I agree with you.
All right. Look, it's Quad E.
Hello, Quad E. How are you doing?
Okay, Quad E, my name's Ellen. My sister's name is Ellen. It's Step, but we're all a bunch of E's. So thank you. Glad to see you. So I'm trying to star.
And you've got let's see, Muddy Mere Wifey. Hell of a good name. Don't believe he pulled the trigger, but he definitely knows who did. Interesting theories of involvement of Mexican mafia drugs. I wouldn't argue against that. I have absolutely no proof. From what I understand, he really loved his son and wife. So again, I need a strong motive for him to be willing to kill them or participate or know about their murder. I admit some things about him and his actions are sketchy, but I just don't have enough, in my opinion, to be anywhere but in Missouri, which is a kind of a Southern euphemism for that I've got my doubts. Iris in Texas, their investigation was done, wrecked that first night.
You made like the Texas Iris in Texas. You did the whole thing.
We aim to please. I agree. It was an absolutely shoddy homicide investigation. Even the ME on site didn't take body temps. Now, he did it, quote unquote, out of respect for other family members there. But I'm sorry, in a homicide, you do your job. Your job is not to protect family. If you want to protect family, put up a screen. Have them moved out of sight, but do your job. And that night, there was a bunch of people that didn't do their job or did it very poorly. Shot again, Murdaugh wifey shot my share of 20 gauge shotguns, and I believe the upward angle. I'd have to see it to believe it. Like in the watermelon, the bird shot didn't even penetrate the watermelon. It did cause some frontal damage, but it didn't even penetrate the watermelon. If it didn't penetrate the watermelon, I'm skeptical that it's going to penetrate all that muscle tissue in the arm, the shoulder, and then penetrate through the bone structure at the base of the skull, upwards into the brain, and then have enough energy sufficient to blow the remainder of the skull out. I'm not saying it's not possible. But again, it's one of those things that without more evidence and more work on the physics and energy of it, I'm really skeptical from what I've seen.
You have a few. I get the phone guy. Got that. I do the StreamYard
Let's
stuff.
see here.
No, I don't either. He couldn't even answer statistical significance.
No. He couldn't answer much of anything. He just kept saying that he had zero confidence and talking about the sled tech didn't know how to measure the angle, or the gauge that she used wasn't placed properly. That's just bullshit. Amy Jacks, he couldn't even answer. Yeah, exactly. I think I clicked on the wrong one. Whoops. Oh, this is the one I wanted. Secret. Murdaugh wifey, your name hurt my heart a bit. It was the nickname we gave my mom.
I'm behind you. Okay.
So that's heart goes out to you. Don't know how you came up with the name Murdaugh wifey, but like I said, it's a very cool name. Let's see. What else? Am I missing anything else?
Yes, you have.
And Ellen, being bluntly honest here, I'm a fledgling just trying to keep Moffat above water. That is pretty much a full-time job, I admit. I can be a little ornery at times, a little feisty, a little short. Been irritated this whole weekend because I took a team to a competition they should have won.
Story. Please tell that story because it's awful.
We have a thing in finance called the CFA Challenge, and the kids take a company, do evaluation, and then they present their valuation. Well, we were one of 4 teams selected out of the state to present, so I made kind of the final 4 in that regard. During the presentation,
okay, what's CFA?
CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. It's just a financial designation certification. And it's a professional society, and they sponsor this school competition.
And you get a company that is some local or international? Or...
It's located in the state. I don't want to go into a lot of details about it,
I'm
but
just trying to make them understand.
Quite simply, it's our guys did the best. And I know I'm biased, but I'd still be honest. And we lost to a team that had to use note cards during the presentation, couldn't answer a couple questions, and had an appendix for additional information that they couldn't manage, just kept flashing up different screens while they were talking. Our presentation was flawless. Our guys knew the answer to every question without hesitation, without uhs, without so's, without saying, I believe, any of this trash. They just gave a firm, direct answer. One of the best college, and I've been doing this for years, one of the best college presentations I've ever seen. We didn't win. One judge came up afterwards and apologized. We had 3 other people in the crowd come up to me and say we should have won. Don't really know exactly why the reason we didn't win, but some people have suggested that it's because the company CFO was in the audience, and we were the only team to recommend a sell. That the stock was overpriced, that management had been over exuberant in some of their commitments, promises, or objectives. Funny thing is today, and we've watched their past 5 years earnings calls. They had an earnings call this morning. We watched the CEO led off saying management is humbled. Never indicated that prior. He also talked about the spinoff. They were spun off by another company. And we talked about that heavily and talked about the expectations that company had for this one. He referenced that 3 times. He's never done that before in an earnings call. During our presentation, the CFO was taking pictures of ours. Ours was the only presentation they took pictures of. So, there's just some interesting things. But I was irritated because we didn't win. I'm still irritated because we didn't win. They screwed over my kids, and that irritates me greatly. So if I'm a little short or tense or whatever, that's probably a big reason why.
Or be short with me.
Yeah. And Ellen's, can be pretty patient with me when she knows I'm irritated. And I apologize for that. That's not her fault, her problem. I shouldn't be so irritable. So there you go. This is now turning into a family counseling session. Counseling session.
Not canceling.
I may get canceled. Who knows?
No, we love you. All right. So,
secret. Do you know about the star thing? I think it's left click and it will star questions.
We are learning it right now. Don't hide it. Star it.
And then that keeps it blue. Look at this. Y'all are really great to put up with us while we're learning.
Man. Yeah. I know. She is like the queen. Sounds like what's happening to me. What's going on with you, Nick, at your company?
Yeah, Nick. Sounds like what's happening with me at my company. What's going on with you? Is there some company manager I need to ream out? Because I'm in the mood to do something.
Oh, he has reamed out the English department at UNCW more times than I can count because his students put emojis in their papers.
Yeah, I don't even want to get started. So
if you can't bitch to us, we're not a good chat. Thank you, Amy Jacks. You are exactly correct on that.
Amy Jacks with the support there. Thank you. We do really appreciate all of y'all, particularly as we're trying to get this started and grow it and learn how to offer better content that's informative, but also interesting and maybe a little bit on the fun side.
You got to blow this up because like my ADHD is looking everywhere. Please.
Blow what up? This whole
the screen. There we go.
Are you happy now?
Yes, because it's like numbers and articles.
See, I spend my life trying to make dogs and Ellen happy. Do you know the constant challenge that provides? The difficulty that provides.
No. The man that gave me COVID for Valentine's Day. Excuse me.
No comment.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot to comment.
Mm-hmm.
But that's some of the thoughts on the Murdaugh trial and what's happened and kind of some of the questions or issues that I've seen with it. It's a huge issue. It's drawing a lot of attention. Yes. And we thought it would just be a fun night.
Murdaugh. It is fun. And it is Alec Murdaugh.
I got the Murdaugh.
Okay, Goosebump is a great because I said it 1,000 times and he does not listen to me, Goosebump.
Well,
He's
she spelled
listening
it
to
out
you.
for me. That's different.
But Nick, what's going on, man? I want to know what's going on. Nick. It's nothing.
Nick, the whole world's watching, man.
Yeah, there's like 23 people watching.
We're ready to, that's the whole world. Good sample of the whole world. The best people in the world are watching this.
Well, they are the best people in the world. I can't say because there might be like, oh, well, Nick, Clay has an email address.
Well,
and
you
he
know,
will
I
not
don't
share this, but
No, I don't want to be getting in your personal business. You know, if there's something we can do to help cheer you on, we want to do it. You know, it sounds like you're serious and there might be some issues. So you'll be in our thoughts and prayers. And if there's something we can do, then let us know. We'll cheer you on at the least.
MoffatOnMoney@gmail.com. Right?
Goosebump. I think Creighton is trying to follow the money. He may have gotten bogged down in all the checks, though.
I think Creighton is trying to make everything fit his narrative. And in my humble opinion, he seems to be trying to make everyone's testimony fit what he wants it to fit. But this is your channel. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. I just haven't seen Creighton. Now, Creighton's the DA, right?
Yes.
Prosecutor.
He's a prosecutor.
I haven't seen him try to chase down what Alec did with all the money.
I have seen him say that you didn't know me in law school. I was 2 years behind you.
Yeah.
And you're privileged. And I'm like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, that's not very professional for a DA to throw out that he's mad, but a little butthurt because he wasn't recognized by a senior in law school.
Truth. All right.
Creighton isn't primarily a criminal prosecutor. If that's true, and I trust you, that's amazing to me that they would allow one of the biggest murder trials in the state's history to be handled by a non-criminal prosecutor.
Agreed. 100%.
That brings up a lot of interesting questions as to how the hell Creighton was selected and why. Is this just a personal vendetta and he, weaseled his way in it?
Thank you, Secret.
Is the state wanting to put on a weak prosecution? I don't know. But that's a fascinating point if true.
You got to make Secret a moderator on here as well.
Nick
said there was a way to do it. And
I can put her in timeout.
No, don't put her in timeout again. No. But she's the best. So yeah, we got to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, he did start investigating the financial crimes first, but all he did was investigate the fraud. He stole this from his housekeeper's kids. He'd never, to me, tried to investigate what Alec did with the money and where all did it go. I've not seen any attention or any explanation of that. And that's my issue is I want to follow the money. Major murders, significant murders aren't always about money, but they're usually about money or revenge. One of the two. And I'd like to see some interest in the DA's office in investigating those two angles.
Yes, he did.
K for now. He is criminal, but largely white collar crime.
Okay. K for now. Are you at Oops Ceramics? Is that the same? Because that's what I got on my thing.
Ellen's trying to ask a question here. She's not sure what the question is, but she's trying to ask.
K for now, and I also got Oops Ceramics. So I was just making sure it was or was not the same person. I don't know because you've been here for a while. Anyway, all right.
Goosebump. Then the murders arose. Since he was the Alex M expert, he took on the murder. That could be very plausible too. I'm just a little bit more sinister in my outlook, and would like, Rob or some of the attorneys on Law and Lumber, et cetera, to comment on their experience or how common it is for somebody investigating financial fraud crimes to take on a murder, for example, or some other major felony, rather than bring somebody else in to handle that prosecution separately. K for now. There was a forensic accountant who testified about where some of the money went.
This is Oops Ceramics. She said she keeps changing her name, so
okay,
we got to know who you are, because I like to keep up with who is coming back. So, thank you.
Yes, we ought to make that a requirement. If you change your name, you have to notify us first.
Not really.
Not really, but
he's kidding.
We do like to learn and know everyone. There was a forensic accountant testified about where some of the money went. Hadn't seen the detail on that. Can't really comment on it. I'd be, if you know the date or the name, I'd try to look it up and see what he said, because I'd be interested.
Or the day of testimony.
Or the day of testimony. I'd be interested to follow up on that. Amy Jacks, there was a forensic accountant as a witness, but his testimony was meh. My own opinion, a lot of the testimony has been pretty meh. Mm-hmm. I don't attend a whole lot of murder trials, or haven't watched a whole lot of murder trials.
I'm going to try this.
I mean, it seems like a lot of the testimony in detail is missing the main points or issues, or confusing the main points.
Sorry.
Now, if you're an attorney, you'll probably hate this, but I grew up on Perry Mason.
It's so good though.
Yeah, it was a good show. My mom loved it. But to me, the whole idea of questioning, particularly in front of a jury, is to try to lead that jury to a conclusion. And a lot of these attorneys on both sides, to me, are asking questions they don't know the answer to.
Secret here.
And when something weird comes up, they don't challenge it. So, I'm kind of like, that's an issue to me.
Okay, Kay Fernell has talking about the SFX stuff. I think she means FTX. Or
where's that?
Right, secret, right there.
Here.
Show Oops Ceramics.
Okay.
Secret Miss Squirrel saying that that Oops Ceramics knows a ton about the FTX. I think
FTX stuff, I believe.
Or SBF.
Yeah.
Oops Ceramics, I'm going to call you that because that's how I know you. Please reach out to us.
100% man.
At
moffatonmoney@gmail.com.
That's what I was about to say.
Or Twitter. Feel free to DM me on Twitter.
Or you can reach out to me at Ellen Moffett, ELLEN MOFFETT at proton, PROTON, mail.com.
I think Creighton thinks he's Perry Mason. That I would agree with. The guy seems to think very highly of himself. Not sure I share that same view.
Yeah, he's a hot mess.
Particularly when he's up whining about Murdaugh not knowing him in law school. That is petty and juvenile.
And then he was like, but you're successful, aren't you? He's like, I don't know what you mean by successful. He's like, well, you make a lot of money. He's like, I don't define that as success because I had a drug addiction. Money and success are not always.
No.
Yeah.
What's the old adage? I want to be wealthy, but not rich. Alex had a ton of money, but he led a miserable life and ended up possibly involved in some deals or situation that cost his family their lives.
Fair enough.
Don't envy the guy at all for 1 second, any aspect of his life. I would much rather prefer a vastly different course, even with lower financial rewards.
I've always been told, at least my dad told me when I was growing up, he said, being rich doesn't make you happy, but it makes being miserable a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. I've been rich, I've been poor. Ain't neither one so hot. I mean, if I had my druthers, probably rather be rich, but life is so much more than our material possessions.
Yeah, I agree, Amy Jacks. I think he was trying to get the untouchable status of the family. I think he was trying to absolutely just destroy the family that had been in charge pretty much of Hampton County and Colleton County and the whole 14th district for over 100 years.
I told you Ellen was wholly consumed by this case. She absolutely loves the details of it.
No, I've just had COVID, nothing else to do. So
You don't watch it anyway. Goosebump. I took that as just another example of Alex looking down on others. He apparently made a lifetime habit of that, and a lot of resentment for them in the area, just from what I've seen in terms of some of the videos, personal comments, etc. Even during the trial, people that don't know him, but who just hear about him, end up hating him. I mean, you got to be a special kind of asshole to earn that kind of contempt.
Truth. Yeah. Goosebump. I know you're consumed as well. It's interesting trial. It's easy to get consumed by. That is true, especially when you're in the house with COVID for what, third week?
Don't talk with a straw in your mouth.
Sorry.
See, I keep her honest too.
It's my third week.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate the
care.
encouragement. It is easy to get consumed by. I will admit, just the few hours I've watched, Ellen will generally pick out sections and highlight pretty much. But it is a fascinating set of circumstances and personalities and events. I mean, there's a reason why it's the biggest case going on in the country. Biggest case, in my opinion, that's gone on in quite a while. Well, Depp and Heard was probably bigger, but before that, this would have been one of the bigger cases in years.
Chunk wants some screen time. He's like dying here.
Chunk's always dying for attention. That's why I think the family annihilator idea works. Alex knew he destroyed the family name. Then his dad's dying, his mom's slipping, Paul's messing up. Now you jump. Get him.
I'll get him.
Get him.
I think when he said annihilating the families, I think he meant annihilating financial financially all of the families that the firm had to put money up to pay back the people that did that, the people that had to, I guess, donate their money.
I mean, the firm would have been sued if they hadn't, made everybody whole.
Yes, and secret. Puppy.
Yes, definitely puppies. We can't get far from the puppies. The puppies are, kind of heart and soul of everything that goes on around here, because they demand to be the heart and soul of everything that goes on around here.
But Amy Jacks, no, I think that Alex did absolutely destroy the family name. I think that I don't I don't think that Alec, what's his last name?
Murdaugh.
Thank you. Killed his family, but I do think, I mean, they started their law firm back in 1910. I mean, and the first, what do you call it?
Got me.
The guy that is the attorney for the whole area.
Solicitor General.
Solicitor. In 1920. Yeah, I mean that's.
I think the main problem with the idea that I have is that by all appearances, by almost all testimony, it was a very close, loving family. They did everything together. Alec was holding Maggie's hands at a game. You know, you don't get that kind of affection after 40 years of marriage or however long they were married without truly loving and caring for a person. That's not the kind of person that can take a 300 blackout and shoot her in the face at point blank range. No. It's just, it will take a lot of convincing to convince me that he was the guy to pull that trigger. Now, if the family was bitter, if there was some concrete motive that he had, you know, if she'd been, I remember seeing a thing on a 90-year-old man that divorced his 88-year-old wife because he found out she cheated on him 40 years ago. You know, if there's something that's intensely personal that makes him angry, makes him hate her, whatever, but there's no evidence of that. The prosecution has offered no evidence that he was even a violent or angry person or had a history of anger or violence. If they had found anything, they would have thrown that up for everybody to see and display, because that really would have strengthened their case, in my opinion, if I was a juror. But this guy just seems to be a kind of a, you know, reasonably intelligent, but kind of low-key, goofy, big old oaf. You know, just somebody who just couldn't be scary if they tried. So, you know, I'm just not sure he just doesn't strike me as the kind of person that could pull the trigger and blow off the face of his wife and son.
I'm kind of off topic right now, but is this human my daughter or Clay's? Can I?
Ellen is really getting off topic here.
Is that fair enough?
We're going to have to put up her soda water.
No.
Yeah, and it's very, very rare for a father to kill his wife and son without some heavy drug influence. Yeah, that's my baby. I'll claim that one. She's all mine.
That human is gorgeous. Thank you, Goosebump. That is Clay's daughter that he raised by himself. As a single dad. Sorry, I got to give you the props.
Here's a pertinent comment. Amy Jacks, I'm the daughter of a New York detective. Believe me, love, closeness, community, status mean very little for some people trying to solve a problem.
True.
But I agree that's true, but that has to be a hell of a problem, and a problem that they fear impacting them personally, as in great risk, pain, suffering, whatever, huge embarrassment. Alex, he was already embarrassed.
He already admitted to the crimes.
He already admitted to the crimes.
The financial crimes.
There was just nothing for him to gain in the death of Paul or Maggie. He had worked on transferring all the assets to Maggie's name. Now with Maggie dead, he's probably the inheritor in the will. So everything he was trying to protect now is at risk. So to me, I don't see a good motive. there's still things that they are investigating or don't know. A lot they don't know. But for now, I just don't see
Oh God.
something was just crashing in the other room. It's the dogs.
Mahoney. That was Mahoney.
That was Mahoney. Oh, we also have a cat. Yeah. Constant entertainment around here. Goosebump. There's a lot not in evidence. I believe that.
Stop.
I believe that. Don't know what all it is, and it could be relatively pertinent, but to me, there's an awful lot of things, angles they haven't investigated or tracked down or are really pursued. And yes, let's be honest, I make the most beautiful babies in the world, and I'm extremely, extremely proud of that fact. Ellen's in the background. Don't know if you can hear her. She's going, no, I do. I think every parent ought to think they make the most beautiful babies in the world.
Mahoney has been rescued.
This is probably pretty much close to my perspective. He's a self-absorbed, greedy, narcissist. He's a scam artist, but not sure he could pull the trigger. And I think that's really what it boils down to me. There's no firm evidence tying him to it. There's some contradictory evidence in terms of the phone and other things that the timeline, 5 minutes to pull the triggers, drive back to the house, shower all the blood spatter and brain material and everything off, hide the clothes, hide the guns, dry off, and leave for his mom's. 5 minutes. That's just nearly impossible. Also, the mere fact of taking 2 long guns. I don't know where the guns came from. Somebody said that they were in the golf cart. But he and Paul had been driving around earlier without guns. So again, why carry the guns down to feed the dogs?
Jay Elliott. They are going on a field trip.
Didn't they say the jurors are getting out to Moselle or just riding by? Sounded kind of vague.
They are going out and they are going to go visit Moselle, and they get to walk around, but they are having the sheriff's department go out there and clear it before they go out. I guess they get to go on a field trip.
Yeah, which I don't really understand because apparently they've already torn down the kennels and the shed.
No, they have not. They have not.
Oh, I saw somebody say today that they had.
No.
Okay, well, that's different.
People have been by this past weekend taking selfies in front of the
gate.
No, the feed room where Paul was killed, which is kind of sick and twisted.
That is sick,
in my opinion. But so they wanted the sheriff's department to go out there and clear everything out before the jury went out there to see, because they wanted them to notice the distance between where Maggie and Paul were and the house and all the things.
Yeah, I think generally it's not a bad thing if jurors go to the actual scene and can take in the sights for themselves. That sometimes can be pretty informative.
Well, I think that's what they want to do as far as distance, like how far the house was away from the actual place that they were deleted and, the things. Some kind of field trip, procession, 100 chaperones. Well, and you know what, Jay? The attorneys get to go, and the judge is going, and the sheriff's department is going. It's going to be a hot mess.
Okay, for now. My grandpa appeared as a goof to many storyteller, Family Guy. He broke my uncle's legs as kids, went after my grandma with a knife, screamed, manipulated, was a coward and scared. I know the type. I've seen him and been around him. But Alex has no history of any of that or of ever being violent, to my knowledge, that anybody's ever brought up or mentioned. Mm-mm. He's just been a gentle, big old oaf to everybody. did apparently fairly well in law school, apparently was a competent attorney, but never history of arguing or violence or aggressiveness even towards anybody, his kids, family, anything. So this would be the first example that he had of violence toward his family, and it's pretty extreme violence. I mean, it's personal, it's angry, it's I want to blow your face off. You know, I don't want you just yet. I'm just not going to shoot to center mass.
Well,
I want your
time.
face destroyed. Your head. That's just, to me, is extremely personal or professional.
I think it's all kind of crappy, but oh, good Lord. It will be a great field trip.
Yeah, a field trip with 100 chaperones for every juror. I mean, they'll just have all the deputies that were out there trampling around the night of the investigation guarding them or providing escort
clear
services.
The area first, and then they're going to, I guess they're going to get a bus for, what is it, 15 people at this point?
I don't know what they've got left. I know they had several drop out.
With the attorneys, and they said all the attorneys, which is that's a bus in and of itself.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but
I don't think they would mix the attorneys and the jurors, so they would have separate buses for each. Yeah.
And then the judge is going to go as well, but they're going to have the sheriff's office clear it before they go.
Yeah, okay, for now, I don't think many would bring up any violence if asked about my grandpa. Well, if he was in a murder trial, if he was the defendant in a murder trial, do you think people would be more willing to bring it up? I kind of think they would, but you may have a good point there. Honestly, you can't say what people in Hampton. Some of them seem to be almost afraid of the Murdaughs. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I'm just laughing at the comments here, and then Creighton and Poot on the bus together.
So there's a lot I don't know. All I can do is, kind of speculate on what I've seen so far. And again, I haven't seen any firm evidence that ties him to the murder or benefits him from the murder. So have no good motive and no good evidence. Agree, a lot of people don't like the guy. I don't like the guy. I think he will spend the rest of his life behind bars just for his financial crimes.
He's a shithole of a human, no doubt.
No doubt. But did he pull the triggers? Was he involved in the assassinations?
I don't think so.
It's hard for me to right now, based on what I know, argue that he was. It just, too many things don't fit or make sense to me. And I've been around some violent people in my life.
Me? He's lying. I'm the least. Really? You're not even gonna...
Sorry to go off on that tangent. He really reminds me of him. Many are in denial about my grandpa or afraid. I think there are quite a few people to speak negatively about Alex. I agree. There's a ton of people to speak negatively about Alex, but it's all on his fraud and arrogance, not on anything violent or aggressive or, that kind of thing. He never hurt anybody physically, never had public arguments or disagreements with Maggie, which if you're married to somebody 40 years, you're going to have a few words or spat or something in most likelihood. 20 years, was it? Still, that's a pretty damn long time. And they're still holding hands.
Neither one of us can make that happen at this point.
No. And we like tangents because a lot of times going down some other thought or discussion is how you discover truth. And that's really why we do this. We want to get and gather bits of information, ideas from all over, and y'all play a big part in that.
Yes, Jay Elliott, right here.
Some say Tinsley, the boat case plaintiff attorney, was his worst nightmare, going after his assets and sniffing around his financial crimes yet discovered.
Tinsley was a shit show, and he wanted to take blood, in my opinion, from Alec Murdaugh. He was absolutely just dead set on taking everything Alec had.
And another thing that's interesting to me is that all the family is standing behind Alec.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bubba is
no, Bubba's the dog.
I mean, Buster. Buster's
That's
even
fine,
angry at people testifying against his dad.
Fair enough.
That to me speaks, you know, there's information there. So unless somebody wants to argue that Buster was part of the murder plot, you know, if I thought my dad had a role in the murder of my mother, my approach or attitude toward him would be entirely different.
Thanks, Quaddy.
Quaddy, I find you really don't know what people are capable of. P.S. You guys are really cute together. You're sweet. And no, you oftentimes don't know what people are capable of. But this is a murder trial. You can't convict somebody on suspicion or possibilities or probabilities. If you're going to convict somebody of murder, you need to have proof and evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So you need to be pretty much convinced that this individual participated in it to some shape, manner, or form, whatever. I just haven't seen that kind of evidence or motive.
Amy Jacks, I can respond to that one. Hey, Amy Jacks, and Oops Ceramics, I get it. I grew up with a bunch of family violence. I grew up with it. I mean, I was raped twice before I was 5 years old. And then raped 3 times afterwards. My mother was a sociopath, and I was her best friend and worst enemy. I am sorry. It is a difficult journey to go through. And if you guys ever need anything, please let me know.
Yeah, it is. I grew up in a loving family. I had a great father. I hope my goal almost every day of my adult life is to be half the man he was. My mom loved me. We were not close until we had a kind of a moment when I was 25. And then I was taking her out to lunch and you know, we talked all the time, et cetera, et cetera. But I never knew a day when she didn't love me. And when I'd come home from school, she'd always have lunch ready and, you know, cook my meals and took care of me. She was closer to my sister than she was to me, and I was closer to my dad. But I grew up in a loving and great family. I won't say it's perfect, but you know, that does shape my opinion because I can't imagine somebody who loves their kids and their wife ever being able to do that kind of act. Now, do I really know his heart? No. Do I really know all the details and possible motives in the case? Again, no.
Let me, hey, Goosebump and K for now. It's okay. Like, I've been through years and years and years and years of therapy. It's fine. But if you guys ever want to share your story or talk, it is just between me and you. You guys know I'm on Discord. or you can email me at Ellen Moffett, ELLEN MOFFETT at proton, PROTONMAIL.com. I'm trying to, Professor of Logic, sorry, ADHD. It's a thing. Seriously. I know that we tried to set up a Discord group for those of us who've been through the same kind of stuff. So just reach out anytime.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of hurts out there, and nothing bothers my soul more. I just don't have the words for those who have had pain in their family experiences and childhood. I just don't have the world. I just don't have the words. But sincerely, Ellen is not altogether horrible to talk to. She said tonight, I've been spending a lot of time at work, gotten behind with being sick, and had this team competition and midterms coming up, so a lot's hitting, trying to get some research out. And so she was talking about tonight, she hasn't had adult conversation in weeks. So she she needs some adult conversation.
This man gave me COVID, so help me out.
We don't know that I gave you COVID.
We know you gave me COVID. You had it 4 days before me.
Well, you could have gotten it somewhere else.
Not altogether horrible. That is exactly, Amy Jacks, that's exactly what Clay says about everything that he likes. It's a thing. And honey, I did not mean to make you cry, Kay, for now. It's all right. Listen, reach out anytime, honey bunny.
Oh.
Yes, and Denise, this is, I really, really hope that this channel can be a place for people who can just have a really kind, helpful community. And, you guys, I've talked to most of you outside this channel, and, I love you to death. So just keep coming, keep showing up, and we're going to try to keep getting better and doing more things. And Professor of Logic is always the comedian. However, Truffle Hound has not found his way onto this platform yet. So you are the star comedian, Professor of Logic.
You're responsible to carry the load.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of requiring adulting to converse with her in an adult conversation, trust me, all you have to do is say, hey, and then just sit back. Your part's done.
No, I told him today that he was.
You don't really need to be able to carry on the conversation. It'll be carried on without you. You just say, hey, get it started, and
that's
you're
because
adulting.
He searches out Truffle. No, Truffle Hound has searched out Rob and everybody else, but Truffle Hound has not come here. So, Professor of Logic, you are the #1 comedian on this, period.
Other streamers have no problem with insults and the like, and it's awesome to be with intelligent and funny people who are kind first.
Always.
Amen. I don't know about other streamers because I'm not able to listen to a bunch. I try to check in on Law and Lumber some.
Oh, honey, okay for now, or Oops Ceramics, or whatever we're going by these days, which is fine. Listen, have a little group to chat with Hope. I haven't been to it. No, you have not been too intense, honey. You have not. You're just fine. You are welcome here anytime. And sweetie, this is a place of love and whatever we can do.
We've got to kind of learn how to answer these questions, because Ellen will see some question and just start answering it. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
But
and
the person I'm talking to does.
And I'm throwing out questions here. So we've got a little work to do on our technique. We'll get there. We'll get there. I have my own wife for that. Then you're the man. You're prepared. You're trained. You're experienced. You know how to do this adulting conversation thing. So,
Professor of Logic? No, he doesn't. He does not. He is hilarious, but no. Adulting is not Professor of Logic's thing.
Grace Park, thank you for joining us. Do you think the jury will feel threatened by Alex if they say he's guilty? That's an interesting point. I mentioned a little earlier about some of the people they've interviewed in the community, and some of them have some fairly strong things to say about Alex and the family. And some of them seem to indicate that they either are or have been scared of the family and what they could do in the past. Some of them even allude to potential violence. Now, I haven't seen any evidence of that, but can't deny that some people seem to be scared of challenging or going against the family. That's a fair question.
Okay, just because this is funny, because Professor of Logic is,
Now, too intense for me, if there's anything I know for, is being easily offended and triggered at the drop of a hat.
Not one bit.
Well, I'm an academic. I think I've got you beat.
Oh, come on, Professor of Logic. You crack me up all the time. Oh, yeah, LOL. Southern Mafia. Now, that is interesting, Amy Jacks. That is something that was brought up that possibly he was involved with for the drugs, but I don't know.
Again, his claim of blowing 50 grand a week on Oxy, I'm in Missouri on that. I think that's bullshit. I saw somebody do the math on that, and it was how many pills a day? Do you remember?
It was 30 milligrams pills at that time he was taking, and it was between 1,500 and 2,000 milligrams a day.
So that'd be 50 to 70 pills a day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're dropping 5 Oxy pills every hour. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I haven't known anybody to do that kind of number and not and continue walking on the planet. But it just doing that every day, every month, every year for 10 years.
Mm-mm.
I'm in Missouri.
All right, let's go to, is Toots here?
His whole career consisted of manipulating simple and good-hearted people toward sympathy. He was a master at it. Office manager knew him since 16 years old, said he was a BS artist. Agree with that. You don't get to be that much of a scam artist and steal that much money over that length of time without having some gifts in that area. Quad E. Question, separate topic. I'm confused how people retire early before 65 years. What do they do for the medical insurance? Well, got to go dinner time. Real quick, in terms of the medical insurance, there's a provision of the law called COBRA that allows you, if you retire or leave a firm, to pick up your insurance and carry it for, I believe it's up to 5 years.
It was 18 months.
Or you can get private insurance directly from an insurance agent.
Obamacare
per se. So that's, it's probably one of those two ways that they handle their medical insurance until they qualify for Medicaid. Hope you have a good dinner. Appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Okay.
My command sergeant major in the Army called me the walking EO complaint. due to my inability to filter. I would think that would be a valuable asset in the military.
Yeah, he
in
has
the
no
Army.
filter, but he's hilarious.
So
Right,
glad to have
immensely.
you. Once the trial is over, Clay, I have to watch your insights on the FTX nonsense. My CFA son tries to explain it to me. Perhaps you'll have better luck. LOL. Well, thank you. I hope so. Give it a shot. See what you think. And do try to go to some links to explain some of the background, some of the terminology, that kind of thing. So I hope it helps. Professor of Logic, it's easy to steal. Just point in the opposite direction and yell, "Look at that." That's why there's no more gold at Fort Knox. Excuse me. It is easy to steal. Alex proved that. But sooner or later, it comes to the surface. So whether or not that, was just a symptom of bigger problems, which I kind of think it is. Not sure it leads to murder, but I believe it was Goosebumps that pointed out earlier, there's an awful lot behind the scenes we don't know. And I agree completely with that. There's an awful lot we don't know that's not being revealed, not being covered. Doesn't look like it's being investigated. But I think somewhere in the future, somebody's going to do a book or whatever, and a lot of it will come out at that point. Jay Elliott, AM stole over $9 million from law firm and was already making millions each year. He had a nice life, but do you think he really could have spent all that time or parked it offshore or buried? Now, when we started off this, we talked about how in 2014, he made $1 million, then $2 million, then $900,000, then $218,000. Had a little drop there. Then in 2018, he was back to $750. 2019, $655. So he had a pretty good base of income. But remember, over the past decade, he stole. I've heard 10. I've heard 12 million. I think they're still finding. There were unpaid loans. $500,000 or more. So, the exact total of money that he had over that decade, some years he made $5 million. So the total amount of money cash that he had available to him over that decade, that previous decade, was, I don't know, 20, 25 million. And they did not live that high on the hog. They traveled some, but again, $50,000, $100,000 a year in travel expenses will keep you traveling nearly every month.
He literally got Murdaugh from Barrett. I can't recall his last name, but the guy that he stole $100,000 and some $1,000 from, because it was he had paid 100% of a loan that he was like a half or 20% owner of, and Barrett owed him a ton of money.
Yeah, but he got Murdaugh for free or had $1 million mortgage. I think he had $1 million mortgage on it. His car was free. Okay. So he had no real expenses. Where did he spend all the money? That's what I want to know. Nobody really is following the money that I have seen.
I think
it went somewhere. I don't know where. All right, Professor Logic, he had a Fabergé egg addiction. Well, there's still 7 eggs missing. I think it's 7 eggs still missing. How do you know? I asked. The defense didn't prove he didn't have a Fabergé egg addiction. Perfect.
Professor of Logic always has the jokes.
But shouldn't it be the prosecution that has to prove he has the Fabergé egg addiction? Say that 10 times. Fabergé egg addiction. Burden of proof is reversed for Fabergé eggs. You're ahead of me. Good job.
Listen, he's got it all.
Jay
Excuse me.
Evan, when Harp yelled at Crosby today, do you think he did it? Crosby looked like he wanted to respond, "You damn right I do." But he sidestepped the Jack Nicholson few good men moment.
You can't handle the truth.
I did not see the video of that, but yeah, she did.
But yeah.
But you know, again, the defense, even the prosecution, a lot of times to me it kind of surprises me because they seem to be asking questions they don't know the answer to, or they don't know what the answer is going to be. And I would just think, particularly in a capital murder case, that would be a pretty dangerous position to take as an attorney. So some of the questions they ask, I just kind of look, some of the answers that they allow, like we were talking earlier about the forensics guy and his inability to calculate slope. How is he even up there testifying as a quote unquote expert? It just, some of the things just boggles my mind. And I understand most of the people in the courtroom aren't that good at math necessarily, but high school geometry. If somebody's going to testify about angularity, then who's ever questioning them should have some basic familiarity with angularity. Otherwise, the witness can just testify to any kind of crap he wants to, which is kind of what they did. Do what? Ellen's trying to whisper something like y'all won't hear. What is, just talk like a normal
Ronnie
human.
Crosby was one of his partners.
And
do you think he did it? I was like, I want to respond. You're damn right I do. But he sidestepped a Jack Nicholson few good men moment.
I mean, there's a lot of people there in the county, in the area, that think that he did it. And I think their opinion is solely because they don't like the guy. Again, what evidence or motive is there?
Okay. Whatever happened to that trip where, yep.
Okay, for now. Whatever happened to the trip where Nathan Tootin drove him down to the airport to go to the Keys after he had cashed large checks for him for months?
He did cash large checks for him for months, but he also admitted that Chris Wilson and Ronnie Crosby, and there was another attorney in his office at different times when he cashed those checks. My opinion would be that he was giving them a cut. I cannot prove that. I do not know that. That is just my opinion. But Nathan did drive him to the airport. He was one of Paul's best friends. And when Alec Murdaugh says, take me to the airport, what's Nathan going to do? Not take him? He was working for the firm. He was a runner. Fair?
Fair. I trust your judgment in that regard. Amy Jacks, the lack of charts and graphics in this trial is difficult for me. I'm a visual learner. I am too. I mean, I'm a guy, we like pictures, but to me, a good picture communicates 1,000 words. Okay. Graphs. I'm sitting there going, what is this really trying to tell me? And particularly when you've got so much testimony concerned with the angularity of the shot, the bullet, or whatever. The bullet wipe, you had one guy testify to it, and then you get somebody else going, oh, that's when she removed the stick. Nobody realizing that she took the picture. The SLED investigator took the picture before she inserted the stick, much less removed it. You've got the expert witness testifying that the angle, the gauge measuring the angle, was inaccurate because the flat end of it had a flat end and it had a curved end. The curved end was next to the vertical surface, the cardboard, as he called it. To me, it looked like corrugated plastic, which is much more durable, much tougher surface. But he was talking about how the gauge wasn't even correct, or wasn't a correct reading as far as the angle, because the gauge was put on backwards. His words, the gauge was put on backwards. And I'm like, no. The angle, the slope of that rod, of that dowel, is wholly independent of the angle of that vertical surface. So it doesn't matter whether the flat end was against this vertical surface or a round end. Doesn't matter. Only thing that matters in calculating the slope is the difference in rise over run. You find 2 points on that linear function and calculate the difference in rise or run. If you have the function, you can take the first derivative and determine the slope at that point. So his whole expert testimony to me was bullshit because he doesn't even know 9th grade geometry. I don't know how the hell he qualified as an expert.
It's Walden University.
Walden University is his degree. The professor of logic. The qualification was placing the correct shape in the correct hole on those baby toys.
He cracks me up.
I'm only mad I didn't think of that. All right, we got a question here. K for now. What does in Missouri mean?
Yes, like Switzerland.
It's a Southern euphemism that means I'm skeptical. I've got 1 foot in Missouri. Missouri is known as the show me state. You have to prove to me or show me what you're saying before I fully believe it. Missourians would often say, show me. You know, it's just kind of a little regional thing. And so the euphemism, I'm in Missouri on that means that I still have some skepticism about that issue. So in Missouri, 1 foot in Missouri. Hope that helps. Secret, I need to move back to my bed in a few minutes. Well, it's been terribly good seeing you, as it were. Hope you're feeling better and really appreciate you joining the chat and appreciate your insights and advice. Love you greatly. As far as his motive, his MO was creating sympathy, distraction. Many of his crimes were just being discovered, and Tinsley was breathing down his neck. Can't really argue with that, but that doesn't prove murder. You know, he was scum of the earth. He was stealing from clients, friends, his housekeeper. The guy had no morals or character in that regard. But I do honestly believe from testimony and, you know, other comments by family members, the support of the family members, that he did love his family, that they were a close-knit family. So in terms of the evidence, there's nothing firm or concrete linking him to the murders. There's some questionable issues with Maggie's phone, with the timeline. Did he really have enough time to do all this? So I'm cautious. I have no doubt he'll spend the rest of his life in jail over his financial crimes, as he should. But in terms of him pulling the trigger or being a party to that, I'm hesitant. J. Elliott following up. Tinsley said it was truly a vigilante attack on the family. The $10 million damages sought would go away. Alec had spent a lot of time transferring assets out of his name into Maggie. I don't see why he would go to that trouble if he could just eliminate the problem, didn't have any problems with it, by killing Alex. Killing Maggie doesn't solve or contribute to that in any way. And again, he was holding hands with Maggie. They did everything together. The family was close. Seemed to be, by all accounts, a loving family. A shady family, a sketchy family. But even sketchy people can love each other. And you look at the shootings. To me, like I say, it was either intensely personal, somebody really hated those people and wanted to blow their face off, or it was professional. I don't understand why the DA hadn't spent more time chasing down those two angles. So, Professor in Logic, I will include, I'm in Missouri on that in all future conversations with my wife. I will expect divorce papers within the week. Well, actually, she'll probably be the one using that more than you. So it might, who knows, it might work out strengthening your marriage and your relationship because it will save some of those adulting moments. How's that? Goosebump. Agreed to read the Bahamas, as Alex storing money in the Bahamas, was behind on the chat while looking at photos. Can't believe you weren't fully focused on the chat, on the video. Still love you, Goosebump. Appreciate you. Elliot, I think your position is reasonable. I think he did love his family, but he loved his money, his legacy, and himself more. Motive not make sense to rational people like us. He was not rational. If he was doing the amount of oxy he said, that's possible. But this crime, to me, strikes me as very rational because whoever did it covered up the evidence. Was able to think and get rid of the weapons. Didn't leave any tracks. There's no prints on the casings. Somebody thought about this before doing it. It wasn't kind of spur of the moment. And then lying in wait, it's somebody that knew the family schedule, knew that they went out there in the evenings to feed the dogs. I don't know. There's just so much I don't know. And it's part of that great amount of unknown that makes me hesitate on saying that I think he's guilty. I think he's evil. I think he's narcissistic, scam artist, all those kind of adjectives that you could throw out would fit him. But I just don't know that he's a murderer.
I disagree. He is absolutely not a murderer at all.
JL, we can rule out Batman as the vigilante in 3 ways. First, he doesn't kill. Second, no bat signal observed. Third, he's a detective and would have done a proper investigation. Professor Logic is on a roll tonight.
He's always on a roll.
Amy Jacks, I'm just deeply jaded and inherently distrustful of humans. The lovey-dovey family doesn't sway me. I understand. While I haven't been personally hurt by family, I've seen enough in humans to make me almost naturally distrustful. Not of Ellen, but I understand the skepticism, and the lovey-dovey family doesn't sway you. That's perfectly understandable. Goosebumps. See my earlier message, the one that starts with comment. I was staying on topic. Research. All right. Where is Goosebumps? Looking. Your previous comment. A doubting Thomas. The whole, all of the whole.
Hey, Goosebump, retype it. If you don't mind. I took a little break, so.
Yeah, Ellen left me for a little while. I've been on my own, so I am not that well equipped to carry on a conversation and follow the chat.
I got puppies to deal with.
I am more singularly focused at times. I'm better at conceptual things than I am keeping up with all the activity.
And I'm ADHD, so
Squirrel. Thank you, Kay, for now.
Yeah, it's like squirrel, shiny thing.
Secret is back. I thought you
Yay, Secret.
She left us to go lay down, I thought.
Oh.
But glad to have you back. Always,
I love you, Secret.
Always glad to see you.
Isn't she you're in Scotland, right, Secret?
Yes. Jay Elliott, to me, he showed that he knew the time of death because he lied about where he was before he left. For all he knew, they were killed 5 minutes before he found them. That's possible.
There is no definite time of death at all. Not one. I mean, they say they died minutes after he left, but they have absolutely zero evidence of time of death.
Yeah, that's part of my criticism of the investigation is the ME when he was there on scene. He did not take temperature of the bodies, which is how you come up with a more accurate time of death. Basically stuck his hand under their armpits and said, it seems to be about this temperature. So he went with that. That's a very, very inaccurate and random estimate of time for time of death.
It is, but at the same time, I don't blame him for not sticking a rectal thermometer in them while their family's there.
Oh, I do. You do your job. In a major homicide investigation, you do your job. If you don't want the family there watching, you move the family around out of sight. You have the police escort them away. You put up a screen. You do whatever. But you get the evidence. You get the facts. Because somebody's life is going to depend on that information. That time of death could have included Paul. It could have excluded Paul if it was.
You mean Alex?
Alex, if it was better known. Right now, it's just a window, and people are, arguing it's on this side of the window or that side of the window. It should be much more affixed to a specific time, but people didn't do their job.
Oh, Professor of Logic, you crack me up.
Goosebump went to Court TV and found the photo evidence exhibits. And see what the expert meant, actually. Compare photos of angle gauge on a doghouse wall versus quail pen wall.
The quail
pen was the cardboard surface.
It wasn't cardboard. It was
a plastic corrugated plastic. Yeah. And my point is that he's saying that the slope estimate was off because the gauge didn't have the flat surface up against the corrugated surface. I'm simply pointing out that that's irrelevant. This slope, whatever angle this is, 3%, 1.5%, whatever, this slope is wholly independent of the angle or any contact with this vertical wall. That gauge rests on that dowel. And what that gauge is doing is calculating slope, rise over run. It's either doing that or it's got a linear formula in it. It's taking the first derivative. So that angularity, that angle is wholly independent of whatever angle or contact that gauge made with that vertical wall. Wholly independent. Doesn't matter whether it was the round side or the flat side. There is no backwards measurement on slope. It's rise over run.
Amy Jacks, absolutely. Professor of Logic and Amy Jacks. Clay is and I are both Scottish.
Well, now, if you're going to answer a question, let me throw it up so other people know what you're talking about.
They read the comments.
We're going to work on this. We're working on this system now. Comment was, Secret Squirrel lives in an amazing castle, as does everyone in Scotland. This is a fact that cannot be disputed with actual facts. I didn't just make up. Well, the great thing about Scots is they're Scottish. the Almighty at one point in time reached down and entrusted them with the formulation of his own magical elixir, whereby they pledged their life, their honor, their fortune to guarding its contents and perfecting the development of the Almighty's own preferred elixir. So if he was to entrust such grace to a group at some point in time in the past, if he was to look upon them with such favor and grace, who am I to argue with the special nature afforded the Scots?
Yeah, he's Scottish. If it's not Scottish.
Amen. Preach it, Amy. Amen. I dearly love that country. I would live there if it wasn't so damn cold. I'm a Southern boy at heart, grew up in the South, and I lived a year in Chicago.
From Alabama.
Right on the lake there, the north end. Didn't matter what I wore. It was cold to the bone. And I thought, no way in hell I'm going to live up here. So got out of there as soon as I can, have not gone back.
He is, of course, Moffat clan. I am Sinclair and Carson clan.
Differential calculus with Clay. You never know what you're going to get in this broadcast. So
I mean, he does teach all those things.
I saw this Professor of Logic Mac. I'm not sure.
Listen, Professor of Logic.
Oh, he's talking about macaroni and cheese.
Oh.
He misspelled Mac. Mac is the name of my baby's baby. And so I saw
His
Mac
granddaughter.
and I was throwing that up. So yeah, her given name is Mackenzie, but they call her Mac after my father. So,
and she looks just like her grandfather
So
and her mother.
a little bit.
A little bit. A whole lot of it.
There's some truth in this comment. I spent a year in college in St. Andrews. While it was beautiful, it was gorgeous, but it was only beautiful one day out of 20.
That is true.
Between the fog and the mist and the rain, the cold, yeah.
I was there when it was cold as it could be, and it was in July, and no.
Yeah, if you want to go to Scotland, I think generally probably May, June is the best time. It was beautiful largely when I went up there. I spent about a month and a half driving around.
Okay, for now, Irish. The Carsons were also Irish and Scottish, so it's kind of a weird deal, but we love you still.
Goosebump. I get what you're saying about the gauge using the slope of the dowel, but not the wall. But would it be calibrated based on the straight flat side? Those gauges.
We had an argument about this the other night. So
we had a discussion about the measurement of it, not necessarily the verticality of the wall.
He was right.
But those gauges are calibrated by gravity. They form a center line to where an internal, I want to say magnet aligns with zero, and that's where it's calibrated. If you angle it, that no longer is at zero. So it's independent of any vertical surface. It just simply measures that that difference from the center line, the 0 point, the zero measurement. Now, how often do they calibrate it? Could it be out of calibration? That's a separate argument. But I would assume the state homicide investigation unit would have properly calibrated instrumentation. The girl would know about messing up the hole, inserting the dowel, whatever. Usually they use a dowel that is smaller,
She's got
and
it.
they've got 2 holes. So you stick the dowel in and let it rest its own weight on the hole. You don't manipulate it. You don't try to, do anything to change the hole. You're as careful as you can be, as slow and deliberate as you need to be to insert that smaller dowel into the hole. And this wasn't old moldy soft cardboard. It was corrugated plastic, which if you've ever seen corrugated plastic, it's a pretty tough material. It can take some stress and not get bent out of shape or not get torn or the hole expanded, etc.
It's about 1/4 of an inch thick.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy plastic.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong plastic, even though the expert witness kept referring to it as cardboard. Cardboard several years old. Well, cardboard in several years in a human environment is going to deteriorate to where it's mush. You could poke fingers in it.
Yes, I think I made that comparison on the Law and Lumber, South Carolina versus Murdaugh trial today, where they were making some comparison, and I said, "Yeah, well, it's kind of like corrugated board versus cardboard. Like you make it's cardboard. Well, it's actually corrugated board. Like it's a general." Term for something that is not. Yeah. Okay. Hey, baby.
And I live with this. I get this.
Yeah.
This is the adulting conversation.
The
kind of
ADHD just does its thing. All right. So Professor of Logic said, because he's funny, I'm on a phone autocorrecting like crazy. And then he said, she just punched me in the shoulder for that comment, which I guess proves my point.
Okay, wait a minute. This is getting juicy now. What comment?
I'm not sure. Oh, my wife.
Well, like my wife would say, if it isn't German, that's the end of the joke. They don't have a sense of humor. They really don't. Germans are not, you never see a funny German comedian.
Hey, my cousin's German.
You never see a funny German comedian.
And her, okay.
The best comedians are
Is your
Scotch.
wife German, Professor of Logic? Because my cousin's favorite term was Dumas Ashla, which I think is stupid asshole.
Goosebump. So it's magnetic, not purely mechanical.
Yeah. He gets.
I am not sure of the core of it or what the exact mechanism is, but most of the earlier ones, I don't know what they've got now, but you use them on guns. Those originally were magnetically based. So I'm assuming the technology may have advanced, but in ways maybe I don't understand. Secret, this is sounding very dodgy.
Which part?
I'm thinking that may be a response to Professor of Logic. She just punched me in the shoulder for that comment, which I guess proves my point. Germans have no sense of humor.
That is not true.
Find me a funny German.
Professor of Logic's wife, I'm assuming, is very funny.
I don't know her. Never met her. Okay, for now, the doghouse wall photo is labeled K&W 1987. The other one is K&W 1999. Not sure of the trial exhibit numbers. I scrolled through all the photos till I saw the yellow gauge. Yeah, I would have to try to look up that particular gauge or model and see what it was constructed from. I assume that wouldn't be terribly difficult.
The holes in the internet is very cagey or dodgy.
The sled cage diagram labels that side as cardboard. And the guy they had testifying called it cardboard. But the picture I saw of it was white, and the edges of the hole weren't paper. It looked to be more plasticky to me. So I don't have the actual substance. I don't have the pictures in front of me, but that does make me a little bit more curious to go back and confirm that or look at that. Actually, KNW in 1987. I wonder if I could Google that. Let's see. KNW _ 1987. And that brings up dog breeding. I've got pictures of dog breeding and football and ugly dudes, really ugly dudes.
You're not going to find it there. Excuse me. I have not been able to find anything on the South Carolina courts, SouthCarolinaCourts.gov or whatever it is, that relates to the murder trial. I have found a lot of financial stuff, but nothing on the murder trial.
Yeah. Okay, for now, the sled cage diagram. So you found some diagrams or something out there. We need to spend a little bit more effort and try to hunt some of this stuff down.
Email them to Moffitt.
Yeah, if you would, if you've got a link or something you can email, moffitonmoney@gmail.com.
Or send them a tweet at
moffitonmoney.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd really be interested in seeing, taking a closer look at some of this.
Oh,
or that it's impossible to find a glass that isn't shaped like a boot in Germany.
Up here.
She also doesn't like it when I tell people the movie Beer Fest is an accurate portrayal of German culture. And what's
listen.
What's wrong with that?
He and Truffle Hound usually like to combat jokes, and I think he's enjoying that he has this all to himself. No offense, Professor of Logic, I love you to death, but yes, keep going. It's funny as hell. Okay for now is okay. I'll email.
Thank you, K for now. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. The competition is opening up. Sweeter than poison.
Hey,
thank you,
girl.
I am Professor of Logic's wife. If I wasn't funny,
hush. No, sorry about that.
Cats. If I wasn't funny, we wouldn't be married still.
Honey, listen, Professor of Logic likes to go against Truffle Hound. He likes to go against everybody and be the funniest man. But girl, you must laugh all the time. Unless you've heard the jokes a million times, in which, yeah, I get that too, honey. Sweeter than poison. All the love for you.
Ellen's just cheering because she has no jokes either.
No, because this one tells the same ones over and over and over again.
Because they're always funny.
If you haven't heard them.
At least I've got original jokes.
Yeah.
She got no jokes.
Apparently I'm funny, but not intentionally.
She's funny, but not intentionally. She does funny stuff. It makes me laugh, but she can't tell a joke. It's really kind of funny.
Yeah. I cannot deny that. Exactly. There is a plastic corrugated board.
Murdaugh. Now, am I pronouncing, Murdaugh wifey? I don't have a lot of experience pronouncing these, but if I do it wrong, let me know. There's a plastic corrugated board.
Yep, there is.
It's what it looked like to me, but I don't have the pictures, so and I'm willing to be, to stand corrected. Because I do know the state officially and the state's witness referred to it as cardboard.
And that's bullshit. But my grandfather was actually a packaging engineer. And so we used all kinds of corrugated boards, plastic, paper, whatever.
Yeah,
always something new. Good. I'm so y'all are sweet. I love you guys. There's matching profile pics difference. Is she actually looks like that? And what do you look like?
All right. I was trying to find a way to bring up this picture, but we do know this about Sweeter Than Poison. She's terribly patient. She has a warm heart, and she's very kind.
And he said today that she was a hoarder. And I said, well, she puts up with you, but I have a feeling she makes you laugh. And he said true on both counts.
You know, who wants to be with somebody they can't laugh with? Or at on occasion, but mostly with.
They are cute.
Y'all are a cute couple.
They're sweet.
You have our seal of approval.
Not that it matters. But
some people think it matters.
You guys are precious.
Some people think it matters. It's important to some. Me.
Our opinion?
Yeah.
To you?
Yeah, to me.
Our opinion is important to you, but
I count.
Oh my God, stabbing will happen now.
She's actually just a female version of me. Poison replacement.
Now.
Stabbing will happen now.
Okay, we did not intend to create any sort of domestic dispute. Listen.
But we're not above it.
We're not. But you guys are precious.
All right, let's see. It is.
And Professor of Logic always makes. Well, you never watch anything, but makes me laugh, and he talks about you.
I watch Raw and Rob occasion
all the time. I'm looking up the
gauge. I see mention of a magnetic mount to attach it to a steel tripod, but no mention of magnets in the gauge works. I haven't found the instructional manual yet, though. Like I say, the magnet to set the center to zero gravity, putting it on a flat surface or keeping it perfectly flat, is older technology. I'm not sure exactly what they use now, but question from Jay. For those of us not aware of Moffat on Money, can you tell us more about it? The site is generally dedicated to help people understand financial matters, investing.
Stop. What is your background?
My background is I worked for years of structuring private placements, venture capital, Reg D offerings, worked as a portfolio manager of these type assets and retirement assets for qualified and non-qualified compensation plan, deferred compensation plans. And then I worked as a derivatives trader for several years. Went back to school when I was 45, got my PhD, and I've been in academia ever since. So kind of a varied career. I've had my face kicked in a bunch and try to offer information to people to help them understand financial markets, financial events, financial risk, help them make more informed decisions in terms of their financial future. Then, some of the things like the Murdaugh trial, question came up, I don't know, a month ago on clips versus magazines and a couple things gun related. So I did a little live broadcast on that. That went over well. And so since we've been sick and out of contact for several weeks, thought that we'd do another live broadcast and try to get back in the rhythm. And Murdaugh and the blowing up watermelons was kind of a cool topic to introduce the conversation.
Yes. The best present I've ever gotten for Valentine's Day is COVID. Thank you.
She still has no proof, so you can't necessarily vote guilty without strong proof.
Oh my God, Tallulah is like curled up on your thing.
Tallulah's found a little sleeping spot. Shocked, absolutely shocked. She laid down and passed out. Shocked.
Yeah, they want to know about your Go down. Yep, go up. Photos from K for Now for your email. Okay, go down.
Ellen is guiding me down the chat. I don't know what the hell she's doing, but we'll find out in a minute.
This voice rings, but that's all they got. I'm sorry, I'm looking.
It's not like she doesn't have her own
where are
computer.
you in academia?
Where are you in academia? I am at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. So I'm down here on the coast. Got my PhD from Alabama. My undergraduate's actually from Auburn with a major in biochemistry, minor in physics and English.
And he hates Alabama.
Yeah. I don't necessarily hate Alabama, but I considered my time there to be more of a missionary endeavor, preaching to the lost. Actually, I was looking at several different schools: Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, Bama, LSU. And I wanted somebody who had published in derivatives, which is kind of my field. And there were two that had published in the South, one at LSU, one at Alabama. And I went and met both, talked to both, drove down to both. And I really liked the guy at Bama, a guy by the name of Robert Brooks. Great guy. And thought, he's the guy I want to study under. So went to Alabama, studied under him for 4 or 5 years, and still have a great relationship with him, and thankful for my time with him. He was kind of weird. He when I asked him to be my chair, he got a lot of requests for it because derivatives was a hot field, hot topic. You could, graduate in it and get a job well into 6 figures. So there's a lot of the entering finance PhD students that wanted to be in derivatives. And so they'd ask him to be their chair. And he would always tell them, well, I don't know if you're worth my time, but, we'll try it for a year and then decide. It's kind of an unusual approach. And for a number of the folks, a number of the kids, that was enough to scare them off. And I was like, what I need to do, I'll do it. And, he ended up being my chair, and enjoyed my time there greatly. Though being an Auburn fan, some of the Bama fans were a little bit irritating at times.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. J. Elliott Davidson, really? That's where my stepsister and my stepmom went to college.
Jayla, Auburn and Bama grad. Ellen, you have a complicated man there.
No shit.
I am simple as can be. Feed me, give me some scotch, make me laugh. I'm good to go. I'm easy like a Sunday morning. Is Moffat on Money the correct Gmail? Yes, moffatonmoney@gmail.com. All one word.
She sent you an email.
And that's what Ellen was talking about. She, the ADHD kind of kicks in, whatever.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere.
So
all the time.
I'm going to get her a muzzle for the next show.
No, you won't. Because you wouldn't do it if I wasn't here.
From biochem and physics to economics. Finance, actually, not economics. We are a subset of economics, but we are much prettier, better hair, more money. You went to the dark side. No, this is actually, just heard something happen outside. My window, got a window right over here. Finance is life. I mean, what are the 3 most important topics in the world? Sex, religion, and politics. Sex. I'm not talking about necessarily the physical act, but the relationship between two. What's the single biggest problem couples have? Money. Religion. find me a major religion that doesn't have a significant amount of its teachings on how you handle your money, God and mammon, whatever. They all do. Politics. What greases the wheels? So it doesn't matter what you do in life or whatever. The important things in life revolve around finance. So finance is life. And I love it. It just impacts so much of what we do, how we do it. It's a reflection of character, and it is a great study.
Okay, because I can't type as fast as I want to. Amy Jacks, I believe that's who I was. Yeah, Amy Jacks. He wanted to be a surgeon for infants.
Pediatric surgeon.
Yes, and he had a kid, and then his wife left and had to be a single dad, so it didn't happen.
Yeah, and the pediatric surgeons I knew, I worked in surgery, worked my way through school in surgery. The pediatric surgeons I knew and would work with, most of the surgeons I knew and would work with had relatively difficult marriages, to put it mildly. They had to live at the hospital due to the nature of their work. If they did surgery on a kid, they had to remain at the hospital for at least 24, sometimes 48 hours in case there was a complication and they had to rush them back into surgery. So that most of them had pretty poor family lives. It also had the longest, most difficult residency. You had to have a fellowship. You had to have a year of research, all these things. So it was the longest program to become a board certified surgeon of any. Had met a girl. We, talked about starting our family, and I just didn't think I could put the family through that. Thought there was something else I could do that I would enjoy, and that ended up being finance. So should have maybe stuck with my first love, because the second one didn't turn out all that well. I did get a baby out of it, but you've seen the pictures. She's all mine. Her mom carried her for 9 months, but that's it. She's all mine. I would have had her with anybody.
She is.
So, but yeah, I've got a great gig. I know it and I love it. Goosebumps. On the first day of class, my finance prof challenged us to name a single decision that doesn't have a financial impact.
There's none.
It doesn't matter. You can be Mother Teresa and you still need money to buy food, to take care of the girls, whatever.
What girls?
She ran a...
Oh, I know. I was thinking you were talking about a general. Never mind. ADHD. Continue.
Muzzle. Muzzle. It's a little hard to keep up with her thoughts sometimes. And I've had years of practice, and it's still
can't keep up with my thoughts,
a struggle.
And he can't. So
yeah, definitely not sometimes. But that's why I love it. It's so impactful on not really so much how one lives, as far as it's really how they live, that I find interesting. I find people's nature and interactions and how they relate to money and how they value money versus other things to be a fascinating exploration, academia, research, whatever.
Fair enough.
Lumberjacks, see the frog behind you. You can't be that bad. Yeah, you missed the Glenlivet. Glenlivet 18 is kind of my normal main love. It's a little hard to find.
Wait. Can't figure out how to do this.
Here's some in that 15.
That's 18.
That's 18. So normally Glenlivet 18 or 21. 15 is more common.
But this is my favorite. I don't know why or how.
That's a special reserve that I actually had a former student buy me after she graduated. She got a job with Volvo, then
it's the best scotch
Tesla,
I've ever had.
Tesla, then Apple. Now Apple. fact, she just had a baby a month or two ago.
You say that, yeah.
Yeah. And she bought that for me and sent it to me. And so, Christina, wherever you are, God bless you.
So, Amy Jacks, we are actually Scottish. No doubt.
Do love my scotch.
Oh gosh, he does.
It's not that I'm a heavy imbiber of it, but I'll just grab a glass and a cigar and just savor life on a pretty evening, watching the sunset.
Sandra, I am with you on that. That is the best scotch ever. Love it. I wish more students would give him that one for Christmas or whatever, because we have about 10 or 12 bottles of scotch that your students have given to us.
Down through the years, probably. Yeah.
That are left. Yeah. It's crazy. But that is the best.
And when they come into town, I let them buy me a scotch. I'll meet with them and let them buy me a scotch. That is the best scotch, Ellen. I agree. It's
no, the
reserve. It is a fine mix, but so is Glenlivet 21.
Meh.
Yeah.
Meh.
I mean, it's not sharp on the attack. It's smooth. It's got a consistent palate. It's just a cornucopia of grace and beauty and all flowing down your throat. It quickens the senses. It strengthens the heart. It instills grace in the spirit. It enhances the vision.
It does all the things.
It does all the things that you would want a fine scotch to do.
I like the peated scotches. Oh, girl, I can't. That is too much for me. Clay can give you a diatribe on that one, but I can't do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jeeps or trucks. You either love it or you hate it. Most people who like brown liquor will, accept scotch or like scotch. But, some of the peated ones, some people just can't get excited about that. So it's kind of like a Jeep. You either love that particular aroma and flavor, or you don't. And that's the beauty of scotches, is there's such diversity in the bottles, particularly depending on the region, whether it's, an Islay or a Lowlands or Speyside or Highland Scotch. They just have regional characteristics that make it wildly entertaining to me.
I've got to take the dogs out, so I'm going to put him on a little diatribe, which is Ram versus Ford.
It's not even close.
And how I saved
claim for a hose water elixir
$10,000
that's sell on the street. Each bottle comes with a free Rolex. Jay Elliott, gotta go, fella Scott. Y'all have a great night. I would love to catch money or gun talk sometime. We'll do it. I appreciate you, hanging with us tonight. And realistically, it probably is time for me to call it a night. Got an early morning tomorrow morning. Like I say, we haven't been on in a while. Haven't been able to produce any content, so we wanted to just kind of get reacquainted with folks. And can't thank you enough. Yeah, can't thank you enough for hanging with us and entertaining us. Hope this has been of some benefit to you in terms of information or fun or just feeling the quan. So let me tell all of y'all good night, God bless, and thank you, and look forward to doing it again sometime soon. Really appreciate you. God bless.